Alright, it appears that I'm making a video, comment video. Probably at the end I'll throw in some more Susskind stuff. Hopefully, if I'm not too tired or worn out by the comments. Anyway, so Bob the Fly, you have made the comment at least 4 or 5 science-related videos that I have seen, probably a lot more, about the distinction between the particles that can receive the push and the particles that do the pushing. Well, I don't, what is so complicated here? I mean, yeah, I've said it over and over again. There's electrons and protons. Neutrons are composites made out of an electron and a proton. That's matter. The force is the force. The force is the stuff moving the speed of light. Anything moving the speed of light, or damn real close to it, is a force, and the force is always the same stuff, whether it's gravity or photons or electromagnetic spectrum or magnetism or EMF, electric fields, or any of that crap. All that stuff is force, and it's all made out of these little tiny things moving the speed of light. They hit the other things, the electrons and the protons. Damn. You list 2 each time for the can be pushed photons and electrons. What? You list 2 each time. What is that? I don't even know. Why do I make any sense out of that sentence? You list 2 each time for the can be pushed protons and electrons. What does that mean? The neutron is being excluded. No, I point out how the neutron is an electron and a proton. It's a dipole. Okay, so yeah, it's getting moved like the other electrons and the protons. It's just an electron and proton close together. That's what a neutron is. I assume because the change is neutral, therefore your push model, you have the neutron as 1 proton and 1 electron. Well, yeah, that's what they decay into. It seems perfectly logical to me, so I'm going with that. Yeah, that sounds right. What are all the pusher particles? Whatever, in your specific push theory of gravitation. The stuff moving the speed of fucking light. I mean, I've been over this so many fucking times. I don't know how somebody could fucking not get this clue. I mean, I've drawn it over and over again. The arrows are always the force, shithead. And the force has 2 types, electron force and proton force. And the electron force reflects off of electrons, the proton force reflects off of protons. That's the basic rule. Shit. What word can be used to group the different categories of particles in your model? Fuck you. Force and matter, asshole. I mean, you're not even trying to understand. I mean, I have start here videos, I have from the beginning, or whatever it is. I have, I have videos in playlists that draw the pictures, that say exactly what I've just said over and over again. The force moves the speed of light. All the stuff moving the speed of light is force. And there's only matters, basically, electrons and protons. Yeah, that's it. Those are the only players in the fucking universe. That's doing all the work. Sorry, but fuck. There's no point in talking to people. People are just stone cold brain dead. You can't get these basic concepts. I mean, I've said it over and over and over again. Too late to enter. That must be the contest thing. No, it's not too late. It's just whatever. It's just a hopeless prospect because everybody's fucking brain dead. So Mr. whatever this is, Welts the drummer, whatever. I like this guy. It sounds like he has nothing to lose and is speaking what he believes. Well, this doesn't have anything to do with having nothing to lose. Oh, how shocking. Somebody speaks what they think. Oh, amazing. I also like the way he is debunking bright insight. I'm just correcting lies, okay? If people want to lie about stuff, yeah, it should be corrected. I find it funny. Regards to his hairstyle, well, to me, Jimmy's hair looks pretty lame, too. Whatever. I don't know why any of that crap is ever relevant, but whatever. So, Woot to K. Whatever. Cowboy. Bobo complains about rudeness after making 1,000 videos full of yelling. No, there's 1,000 videos explaining a theory. Now, 5% of that content is this kind of stuff, irritated stuff. You know, where people are just being fucking assholes, like you. But that's it. Okay? I don't waste my time name calling, so go ahead, show the videos where, you know, even all the videos where I'm debunking Susskind, where I just waste my time name calling. Oh, stupid baldy guy. No, I don't waste my time doing that. And rude insults at others. So just more bullshit, right? Somebody willing to come into this room, they'll get treated decently until they cross the line first. That's always been the rule. That's always how it turns out. So you're just full of shit with this bullshit argument that I bring the crap first. Bullshit. I mean, if somebody's doing crappy science and I point it out, oh, is it my fault they're lying? Is it my fault they're ignorant? Yeah, I'll call them ignorant because they're ignorant. Gee. And frankly, dishonest. I mean, you have to be overtly dishonest if you're preaching a theory that you never even saw the evidence for. Alright, so Mark Mason, anonymous asshole again. There's absolutely moments when he lashes out first. For example, at his own fans. Again, I don't give a fuck about fan or enemy. I give a fuck about a rational argument. So if a fan's saying something stupid, why shouldn't I point out it's stupid? One time a follower suggested he should be more positive. A waste of my time, a waste of his time. That's what I probably said. And that's to you, and that's being offensive. I'm not allowed to tell somebody, you're wasting your time. I really don't want to hear that shit. I got no use for it. And maybe try to work out the math. Again, what math do I have to work out? Again, I'm not the one who first thinks math describes causes. I'm the one who's stated over and over again, I've never heard a rational counter-argument. Mathematics formalizes effects. It doesn't explain cause. So again, you think physics is about formalizing effects. You don't think physics should be about diagnosing causes. You think doctors should just push pills. They shouldn't try to figure out what's actually wrong with you. Alright, and he lashes out. Yeah, because I don't agree with any of this shit. And I have a right to say I don't agree with any of that shit. I think it's completely wrong-headed. What am I supposed to say? I'm supposed to lie and say, oh, gee, that's a swell argument? No, I don't think it's a swell argument. Another time was Numbly Numb. Yeah, Numbly Numb is a conspiracy kook and a waste of time. Brought out a conspiracy theory, and that was the end of the relationship. Yeah, I have no patience for conspirators. People who, not conspirators, but people who think any of these assholes in the world are smart enough to actually organize a conspiracy, because they're not. So fuck you. I have a right to say anybody who's looking for conspiracy theories is just looking for a scapegoat. Instead of looking for the real reason, they just want to blame something. Easy. Fake self-righteous is one hell of a problem in the world. And again, I'm fake how? So more bullshit slander by you, asshole. You got no evidence that I fake a single fucking word that comes out of my fucking mouth. You're just a fucking liar. You just lie about other people. You don't have any evidence that I've ever said anything insincere in my life, you fucking cunt. Not one shred of evidence. Let's see, that's what they said about Galileo. They accused him of being arrogant. No, he knew something and set them straight. Unfortunately, people perceive this as arrogance. It's idiotic. It shouldn't make any difference. The only thing that matters is the argument. You either make an argument or you don't make an argument. You assholes want to waste people's time with some sort of self-help or positive attitude or some kind of, bullshit. I don't give a fuck. If you're worried about messengers and not messages, then just fuck off, because this isn't the place for you. Shit. So Eric's electron. So this Eric guy asked, made a rag comment, so we'll rag on him. An eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. Where's his principles? So does that make any sense to anybody here? I've just explained my principles. I have a right to honestly call somebody ignorant. I have a right to say you're being dishonest. I think you're being dishonest. I have a right to say something like that if the evidence is right in front of me. If a physicist who's spent years teaching physics is going to tell me that he has evidence of an experiment that detected what slit light went through, when he should know, he can't possibly not know. If he's that ignorant, he shouldn't be teaching physics. So I'm just saying it's either one or the other. Either he's fantastically ignorant of his own subject, or he's full of shit. There's only two choices: liar or idiot. Alright. And then he says, the martyr stuff doesn't apply here. And who's arguing for that? Again, you people can't make an argument on the actual evidence, on the facts. You're just arguing bullshit here, aren't you? Are you making any physics arguments here? Oh, that's right. No, you're not. I'm not the one wasting time not arguing physics. You are. Most of my videos are on the fucking subject. Especially if they're titled magnetism. Well, then the whole fucking video is about fucking magnetism, fuckhead. It's not about, oh, I saw this guy on the internet look like a dipshit. No, then the video has that in it. Galileo had evidence to back up what he had to say up. To back up what he had to say up. Okay, not everyone who is criticized or laughed at is right. And that doesn't mean anything either. As I've pointed out, all the dissidents I've seen are appropriately called tinfoil hat, lying, conspiracy theory kooks. They make shit up. They simplify, you know, they just almost dismiss the existence of things that are hard evidence proven. You know, to say wacky crap like, oh yeah, the earth is expanding because dinosaurs were too big. You know, some kind of horse shit. Okay, so, I don't know, Stacy must have made a point somewhere that got deleted somewhere, I guess. That's not what the arrogant is about, though. He said that he never draws first blood. Yeah, I'm saying I don't get sillily personal with somebody. I argue their physics. I don't sit there and argue you're not entitled to have an opinion. Your hair looks stupid. You're wearing baggy pants. I don't waste time with that. I cited specific examples. That you're so full of shit. You didn't cite anything. Well, anyway, that's a specific example where that's factually incorrect. Well, where's your specific examples where that's factually incorrect? I didn't see those. You say he's here to argue, but over the past many years he's been strawmanning people. Well, I mean, again, I invite you to come into the room where everybody can fucking see it. You don't have not one of you pussies can show up to the room, okay, and make your argument. Now, the one time somebody showed up, it's clearly what happened. He's the one that got desperate and started with the name calling and the rag talking. So I'm just saying, go ahead, meet my challenge. See if you can be more disciplined than me. You see if you can make your arguments without throwing insults about stuff that doesn't mean anything to the actual argument being made. Oh, you don't have a physics degree. You think that's a reasonable argument? You think that's relevant somehow? All right, anyway. You say he's okay. Constantly, even some rare cases outright denying basic math arguments. So that's a lie. So you're blocked. You can't lie here. It's just a lie. You cannot cite any math that I deny. You're just a liar. Calling basic kinematic scenarios rigged math. Well, I'm saying it's rigged when you change the variables. That's a rig. Yeah, I'm sorry. When the variable in one circumstance means how wide is the slit, and in the next circumstance it's how wide is the impediment, yeah, that's a rig. Yes, that's right. Not QM or SR, but basic classical motion. It's just a lie. You're just lying. Okay? There's no way to defend that statement. I have all respect for the obligation for any model to be conservative, to conserve all energy. So you're just a fucking liar. Why is he pretending that you can only block the slit only at the immediate vicinity? So I'm pretending something? No, I'm saying there's no evidence, asshole. You're telling me that photons go through, well, a photon splits in two, goes through two slits. You have absolutely no evidence any of that crap happens, that it creates two fucking goddamn waves, and the waves somehow interfere with each other. You have nothing. You have zero evidence for that actually happening anywhere, and especially Huygens. Why is he implying, still after all this time, that the double slit equation only has one variable? It only has one variable, asshole. Even after it was shown, he was arguing against a simplification. No, the same math used in every... Go ahead and show me the video on YouTube. There's 1 million videos on YouTube. Okay, let's say 500,000 on the subject of the double slit experiment. And he's telling me, and not one of them uses his special math. They only use this formula. They call it the wave equation. All right, so that's the equation, asshole. It's the same equation taught in Yale and taught in MIT and taught in California. All right, no other equation is taught. So you're the one full of shit to say that none of the physicists actually know the secret math formula. So more bullshit from you. A simplification. It's the foundation of their fucking physics, idiot. A simplification. It's their wave equation, shithead. They're calling it wave interference, so I guess they have to call it some other kind of interference then, right? Because that's why it's making two patterns, by the way, which water waves don't do. Someone pointed out that GR isn't just Newtonian gravity plus finite speed. Well, when did I argue that anything other than that? When did I say that relativity was just Newtonian gravity with finite speed? When did I argue that, liar? Because that would create problems with aberration of gravity, leading to problems with conservation of angular momentum. I already went over all this, okay? It has to do with things being circles, jackasses. You can't understand spherical gravity in a particle model, then that's your bad. You're too fucking stupid. I already pointed out how a velocity in this direction has a component of momentum in this direction and a component in this direction, idiot. And the only part that counts for the gravity is the part in this direction, idiot. So there is no aberration problem. I went to the Wikipedia page, I read the whole paragraph, I debunked it, I explained it. So you're just lying. More lying. Okay. He took that, replaced it with completely different fucking argument. Well, obviously I'm arguing from a completely different physics. I don't believe in pull, gravity. I don't believe in bending space or fake geometry as an answer to the problem, that there's really a real cause, not a fake, spooky action cause. So of course my explanation is different because I actually believe that there's a real force that causes the effect, shithead. That had nothing to do with the original one presented. I don't know exactly how I have to have anything to do with the original one presented when I don't believe that theory has any rational integrity at all. There is no bent space, idiot. Saying, oh, the shadow spread in 180 degrees. Well, if you don't understand that that's exactly what momentum does, that it has a vector in perpendicular to its momentum and forward, any vector, any velocity vector can be understood to have a portion in both of the perpendiculars, the tangential angles, even though it had no relevance, which is incredibly relevant to conservation of energy, retard. So fuck you. When I'm done, I'll block you. Anyway. Alright, so that's it, right? That's it for that? No. Okay, Eric's electrons. So this guy's responding to him. Never said anything about martyrdom. Galileo had evidence to back up what he had to say up. Never let facts get in your way of a good prosecution. Not everyone who is criticized or laughed at is right. And, yeah, well, that's the appropriate response. So what? Yeah. Again, there's arguments here, okay? I mean, I made a bunch of arguments in the video, clearly. I pointed out how Susskind seems clueless to the fact that there's a very elaborate single slit pattern created, an interference pattern. Looks just like an interference pattern. He seems to have no clue that that's how it actually works. The single slits do create a pattern. He obviously, I don't think, knows that, well, if I make the laser beam smaller and put it through the two slits, I'll get round circles instead of bars of light, indicating that obviously it's not a random kick. If I have multiple slits, I'll project images of whatever goes into the slits. So whatever the light is shaped like, if I have the light shaped like a star, I'll project stars at all the locations. True images. So clearly indicating that what those bars are images of the surfaces. But there's no mention of any of that optics stuff. You know. All right. Anyway. All right. So let's see where this one started. All right. This is the Eric's Electron's snarky shit ass comment. You said after the 1930s they stopped talking about causes. Yeah, I'm saying when quantum mechanics was established, was around 1930. There was a group of physicists, Bohr, this guy, that guy, Einstein. They all get together, a little group, and they basically decided we're going to have this new kind of physics, okay, based on this, whatever, wavical theory, okay, of force. This is vague and untrue. Says you. I think it's a historical fact that quantum mechanics, as known as randomness or quantum weirdness, however you want to describe it, was in fact established in about 1930. The randomness bit comes from the fact that quantum measurements are difficult. No, their claim is that if you measure something, you have broken the universe. You've somehow collapsed some magical function. Now, they don't have any evidence that actually happens. They've never done the experiment they claim that was done, which is they've never attempted to detect any of this stuff, as well as counterintuitive. I don't know what's counterintuitive. Newton discovered Newton's rings, 400 years ago, right? So you're going to tell me there's something counterintuitive about a ringed pattern? No, there's nothing counterintuitive since Newton. That's exactly what you would expect since Newton. All right, you're working from more of an intuitive framework. Fuck you. This has nothing to do with intuition, asshole. This has to do with evidence. Your evidence for their entire theory is weak. There's no evidence for bent space. Okay, there's no evidence that there's special frames that you can get yourself into, that somehow all of a sudden now my speed isn't real. I don't have a real velocity in the real universe. There's no evidence any of that shit is true. And there's clearly no evidence, in my opinion, that a photon is a wave. There's clearly no evidence that electrons have a frequency, and they've given them one. Okay, they've given cars frequency. Everything that moves has a frequency now. That's just made up. And then you get into dark matter and all the other crap they made up. So fuck you. This has nothing to do with intuition. It has to do with evidence. You have no fucking evidence for your fucking religion. Alright. You also never explain mathematically why their measurements are correct. What do you mean I didn't explain it? I mean, their measurements, first off, don't account for anything, right? So if you take their single slit math, for example, with a pattern that has 40 bars, they're supposed to be invisible. Their math says the bars you see are supposed to be invisible. So their math doesn't work. It only plays out 2 or 3 bars away from the center maxima. As soon as you go any further, it breaks. Obviously, the wave equation breaks in the two-slit experiment as soon as you get past the 8th bar, because by the 8th or 10th bar, you're already going to be now going into the dark spot created by the other pattern. Okay, the other pattern creates dead spots. The math doesn't account for it at all. It's got lots of errors in it, asshole. Obviously, the math doesn't explain why the shape of the shape. It doesn't explain the photons create a very it's not gradual. The on-off pattern isn't gradually on, gradually off, gradually on, gradually off. They're bars of light. The math says they should be gradual. The photon experiment should look just like the electron experiment, and it doesn't. So fuck you. Also, you never explain mathematically why their measurements aren't correct. What measurements? I didn't claim about a measurement. I claim their theory isn't correct, shithead. Okay, you just said the whole bunch of vague things. No, I didn't say any vague things. I pointed out every time Susskind said something that's not true, that's factually incorrect, and I pointed those out to you. So, I asked the simple question, do single slits make interference patterns? Now, I wanted the moron to answer the question, and some other asshole answered it for him. But, I mean, clearly, Susskind, through the whole video, premised the video basically arguing that single slits don't create pattern. Alright. A bunch of vague things leading to nothing productive or conclusive. Well, I'm sorry, I think I conclusively demonstrated that Susskind's talking out of his ass. That he's not only quote-mined the evidence, he's ignored a big pile of it. This is more of a gossip video than a scientific one. Well, just fuck you, okay? You're not going to pay. You didn't pay any attention to the arguments made. You have no explanations for them. I just pointed it out again, okay? If I take a whole bunch of slits and I shine a shape into it, the shape goes to each location. Well, how does your wave theory explain that, asshole? The image is transferred to each location. How's your stupid wave interference theory explain that? Alright, so I asked, do single slits make interference patterns with just as many bars as double slits? And apparently double flip them. You can't spell a word the way it sounds. That'll confuse us. Assholes. I mean, just such assholes. Alright, so Mark Mason, the liar, says, a single slit makes interference pattern while a double slit makes an interference pattern within an interference pattern. Yeah, that's exactly what I've been saying, isn't it? Yes. Now, where's the video? See, he just claimed that I didn't point out any of Susskind's errors. I didn't do anything in the video. He said I just, did a gossip video. So where did Susskind point out in the video that single slits make interference patterns? Because guess what, he didn't. Both of these are derived by... derived. No, they're not derived. You don't need to derive them. You see them, idiot. By converting the wave equation into the Kirchhoff integral theorem and then applying the theorem to the aperture barriers. So hilarious. So I haven't seen that done on any video ever on YouTube, nor have I seen it done at any university course. So they never even mention any of this crap. And yet he says, oh yeah, well that's the real physics. So they're not doing the real physics in universities apparently. This is in almost any basic optics book. Yeah, and that's exactly the point I've made in so many videos, is that optics, right? In optics, you can create the pattern without any interference. You don't need an interferometer, okay, to create exactly the same pattern you get in an interferometer. That is, you don't need any place where the photons interfered with each other. All you need is a dirty piece of glass. And that's optics. QM doesn't pay any attention to optics. Newsflash, asshole. Okay. For example, Hyatt, your vague accusations. So they're not vague, they're quite explicit. Images sent to the locations. That's an explicit statement being made. Alright, there's no similarity between water waves in the single slit and photons in the single slit. It's a statement, a clear statement, why your evidence doesn't add up, why you are just quote mining the evidence. The parts that agree with you, you accept. The parts that disagree with you, you ignore. And somehow no one has realized to take into account the single slit. Alright, try this again. This is in almost any basic optics book. Well, I don't think it's in any basic optics book, so I think that's horseshit. But anyway, for example, your vague accusations that somehow no one has realized to take into account the single slit are unfounded. I overtly show all of these people not taking it into account. I show them, Feynman, I show him drawing it wrong. I show each one of them drawing it wrong. Single slits do this. No, they don't. Newton already proved it. I said that over and over. I must have said those words. Newton already proved it. I must have said that 50 times now. You're such a fucking liar, Mark. Okay. Let's see. So this guy, David, yeah. What is a double? Oh, so you can't sound out a word. D-U-B-B-L-E. Yeah, that's double to me. So you can't figure it out, huh? Hopeless assholes. Your vague accusations somehow no one has realized to take into account the single slit is unfound. Actually, they're conspiracy theory level insane. So again, you clearly point out there's no vague accusations. There are hard accusations being made that the slits or the pattern is actually being created by sending images of the surfaces. So clear accusation being made, and it can clearly be defended by the actual evidence of the experiment, and you're just ignoring the evidence presented and pretending that you can just say, he's insane, there. No, not even close to good enough. You're just such cowards. Come into this room, come into a live room, and defend your accusations, asshole, for everybody to see. Put your name on them, not your fake account. Just so I can humiliate you through all time, asshole. You shit talker. This is more of a gossip video than a scientific one. Well, only to you, because you can't deal with any of the arguments made. Not a single one of them. I mean, and you clearly can't deal with the fact that your college professors somehow don't know that single slits can make 40 or 50, bars of light as an interference pattern. They apparently don't know that. LOL. DraftScience thinks physics should be conducted the way mean high school girls talk about each other behind their back. So again, all of these videos are making explicit arguments about the bad physics, about the weak evidence. And this is what they do. They pretend, I don't have to account for 95% of your video. Yeah, that's the part you're supposed to account for, the 95%. This makes one wonder what the deal is with Daft and his obsession with high school girls. So another bizarre accusation, but I suppose any male who doesn't, find youthful females attractive, I'd say he's probably, homo. What's your argument? And again, where's my obsession? Where do you have any obsession? Where's the evidence of my obsession with high school girls, David? So you're getting blocked. I mean, that's a foul thing to say, especially when you're a fucking anonymous coward pedophile, afraid to show your real face. You fucking coward. Okay. So I said, single slits make interference pattern. Okay, so I say, where did Leonard Susskind acknowledge or point that out? Right? That's pretty simple. All right, and then he said derived thing, and I said, do you have a university link where this is explained? So just show me a university that argues what you just said is the truth, that explains it to somebody. This is the way you do the real math. Show me that paper somewhere. This is in almost any basic optics book, and QM avoids the subject of optics, as I just pointed out. Tried to post, but YouTube keeps censoring. Try. I don't buy this censorship argument. I don't have any problem posting links. So more bullshit. So I don't know what this is. I guess I have to fill in dots or something. With spaces replaced by dots. So this one, Physics Web. This is not a university. You really don't understand. You can't do anything by the book, can you? All right. The derivation starts at the second page, section 7.2, with the divergence theorem, not at the first page. The first page is just the exposition. So what? This is going to be a piece of crap. Trust me. No problem. Piece of crap. All right. So, and QM avoids the subject of optics. Both are predicated on similar math. Again, it's not about math, it's about theory and model. What's their model? Oh, that's right, virtual photons. They don't have a fucking model. There's an entire field called quantum optics. Well, there's all kinds of quantum fields, quantum color, quantum boogers, quantum fart matrix. There's all kinds of quantum bullshit, and it's all bullshit. Alright, so I'll grab the link before I block you. Yeah, so just go fuck yourself. Alright? I mean, have a real channel so I can lie in the comment section of your videos. If you're going to lie in mine, then give me the right to lie on your videos about who you are and what you've done. You fucking piece of shit. Alright. So, Jeffro Tull, no doubt cowboy again. Look, all anonymous cowards. Not one person, not one of these people has enough guts, again, to come into this room and show me up. Because they know they'd have to answer my questions, and they don't have any fucking answers. Fact. You act as if you have a 4-year degree in physics simply because you spent so much time watching physics lectures. Well, it does help, jackass. Did it ever occur to you that students who attend these universities actually do homework? Yeah, all math. Again, you just don't get the simple argument, okay? There's cause and effect. They just care about effects. They don't care about causes. That's why they come up with silly things like bent space. Do you think bent space is an explanation of a cause? Or do you think that, I think that's just spooky action. That's just handing it over to something else. That's just it's like saying God did it. It's not an explanation, it's not a model, it's not a goddamn thing. When they put it in 3 dimensions, it just turns into a flow of water, and you could have the water pushing just as well as you could have it push-pulling, couldn't you? Yeah, you could, and it just ends up being mock gravity. So all of Einstein's bent space turns into mock gravity, essentially, especially when Susskind teaches it, because that's exactly how he teaches it, idiot. And then you think virtual photon is a fucking explanation? Oh, it's just in a field. It's in the field doing this thingy field. You think that's an explanation? No, it's nothing. So again, physics, they've turned it into math. Math formalizing effects doesn't even come close to touching on causes, explaining them or making them understood. And you people just keep perverting that anyway, because even when people actually do it, like Rutherford and Maxwell and stuff and Ampere, and they get some of this stuff nailed down for you and kind of explain, well, look, it's a straight line force, and the lines are just metaphors, essentially. You know, the lines aren't, things aren't really traveling on the lines. You still don't get it. Did it ever occur to you that students who attend these universities have to actually do homework, read books, and write notes, and take tests in addition to listen to lectures? And again, did it ever occur to you, after I've watched all the lectures, that they spend 5% of the time talking about theory and 95% of the time deriving equations? And you think deriving equations explains causes. And that makes you, in my opinion, an idiot. Because it doesn't do any such thing. You don't know jack about mainstream physics. Well, I can't prove it. They don't have any, there's nothing to know because their theory is shit. It's all made of shit. Neutrinos, all this shit they've invented, it's all shit. There's no evidence for this crap. Just like your photon bent by gravity crap. Okay, any more than you are able to provide coherent answers to problems with your own theories that commentators have brought up. Again, where have they brought up anything? So again, just lie some more, asshole. Go ahead, you can bring it up right here. Post me a video that I can't explain. Go ahead, post me the video, the experiment that I can't explain. Or, I mean, certainly within the realm of elemental physics. I'm not going to waste my time on their idiotic entanglement experiments, you know, with their presumptive technology, their special beam splitters. You still haven't, nobody's explained to me how an interferometer works. No one's been able to post me to a link that shows what happens to a photon when it goes into an interferometer. Show me. Post me a link. Somebody must have drawn it somewhere, right? Well, why don't you post me a link to a diagram that shows what happens to a single photon when it goes into an interferometer? Do single photons interfere with themselves, or do different photons interfere? Do you have an answer to the question, fuckhead? Alright, David Hilbert is not, I don't know what that is, able to provide coherent answers to problems with your own theory. So again, there's no problems. I've answered the problems. Hoffaday makes videos pointing out, oh, you did, and I respond to them, and I've had really good answers. Go watch the Stern Gerlach crap, the rest of it. Good answers. I'm the one who's played, you know, at least 6 or 7 of those 1960s videos where they, you know, where they really do the experiment right there in front of you. All right, that commentators have brought up. You mean like the dark bands in the double slit that disappear? So again, the bands don't disappear, they move. So that's all that happens in the double slit, and it's all that happens in the single slit. When you change where the width of the slit, you actually do change the bands. I mean, their position will change because they're going to get bigger or they're going to get smaller. And they're going to contract or they're going to expand. Their position changes, idiot. Yeah. They don't disappear. They move. Okay, when one slit is closed, you mean like that. So again, show the experiment. Why don't you link to the experiment that illustrates any of that? Go ahead, show us the experiment where they closed one of the slits. Because they had this great technology for doing that, where they could bring another piece of metal or another piece of material into the experiment without disturbing anything. Go ahead and show me the link to that experiment, you lying sack of shit. I mean, they should be able to just take a video of it, right? And they just show you how, well, look, when we cover the slit, see what happens? Yeah, they should be able to show that, shouldn't they? I mean, really, realistically, these are things that we should be able to see, right? If they had detected a photon, or they detected electrons, or they even detected buckyballs, which slit they go through, you think somebody could have videotaped the experiment somewhere, don't you? Some reference to it somewhere? You fucking liar. Alright. So we'll see what this Eric guy does. He has videos that he did a glacier is growing response video. But it's just kind of funny. So he takes the names Eric's electrons. So he's kind of assuming, you know, he's got the little Superman electron thing, like he knows something about the subject. You know, he's obviously just a student, you know, but whatever. We'll see if he can man up and back up what he says. Well, will you answer any of my questions, Eric? You didn't answer the one I asked you. Do you understand that single slits make very elaborate interference patterns? Do you understand that that's the fact since Newton? That they don't just make lumps? Alright, so let's play Susskind here, because this is where, you know, look, Hoffaday concedes the argument, okay? He looked for the evidence for these experiments. He can't find them either, alright? I looked, Hoffaday looked, the evidence doesn't exist. They're just making up this whole bullshit that they somehow tested this with real experiments. They never tested it with a real experiment. It's all just done in their little heads. They want to believe in fairy tales, you know, little fairy princesses. So they've created a whole egg factory that makes, you know, fairy princess eggs. You know, it's just bullshit.
Electron in this case, and then run the law of physics backward. What you'll find out is that the probabilistic character of it gets compounded. So, the fluctuation that sent it up here, when you run it backward, and you now know that it came out up here, and you run it backward, it's likely to come out down here, or up here, and it will disturb the system in such a way that the test of reversibility will fail.
Right. It has no evidence of that. So this is just their theory. They want to believe this. They don't believe in a deterministic universe. They don't believe in cause and effect. And so they somehow think that you can't just reverse it like you reverse anything else. Okay, everything just starts moving backwards, and like ink swirling or something, it just unswirl the ink. no, it's somehow this is special. No evidence. No experiment demonstrating non-reversibility.
So this is curious, that whatever quantum logic is, the questions of the kind...
So again, when he says whatever quantum logic is, that means our assumptions. That's all it means. If you accept our assumptions, then this is what you're going to believe. So it's like some religious person saying, accept the assumption that God exists. Okay, now let's talk about reality. No, thank you. You know, I have no obligation to believe in your God.
You're asking are deeply dependent on a ridiculous question. Did somebody look at the system during the course of its evolution?
So again, he said it again. Did somebody look at it? Did somebody test it? Did somebody do something? No, and they have no experiment. They never did the experiment.
And as I said, of course, looking at a system can disturb it, but in classical physics, we can look at a system without disturbing it. We can look at a system, detect the system, measure the system as gently as we like, arbitrarily gently.
Again, this is just such bullshit, right? Because we know we can. So exactly. So when they use buckyballs in the two-slit experiment, they can clearly shoot photons at 60 atoms without substantially disturbing the momentum of the 60 atoms. You're not gonna knock it way off course. So at best, you'll change it, deflect it a little bit. So clearly you can detect which slit the buckyball went through. So clearly without breaking the experiment. The only issue is that, yeah, you can't shoot Volkswagens at Volkswagens to see what a Volkswagen looks like. Duh!
Arbitrarily small effect on it, so they're running it backwards would be exactly as if we didn't look at it. Not so in quantum mechanics.
So he's just saying, it's like some kind of law we've made up that somehow all interactions are catastrophic. We say so. There's no law. There's no evidence. This is just their made-up religion.
The state of the system is never a small thing to do for the system. And
so obviously you can subtly influence something. You can. The fact is that, again, if you can do this experiment with buckyballs, you can have a subtle interaction with them, detect which slit they went through, and answer the question without substantially disturbing their momentum. Just a fact. Obviously, you can't hit a photon with anything, so looking at photons is impossible. And yes, if you hit electrons with photons, you're going to mess them up a lot.
This is an example that completely destroys the experiment. The two-slit experiment has also a similar story that goes with it. The story that I told you a moment ago about the interference pattern and the destructive interference is only true.
So when he did the single slit, he again assumed there was no pattern, just a lump, just a divergence.
If nobody records which way the electron went through, and when I say nobody, I don't mean a human being necessarily. I mean that nothing in the environment of the experiment records and remembers which way the electron went through. In other words...
so nothing is impacted. So again, not only is this stupid that they've never even considered that the matter of the slits would have some influence on photons, you know, that matter is made of electrons and protons, atoms, and that atoms are mostly empty space, and that environment would have some effect on the photon's travel. They've never even considered the matter as having any influence. And now they're basically saying, well, if it did pass through something, then that would eliminate our capacity to run the experiment backwards, which again is just crap.
After the experiment, there was nothing in the environment of this experiment which has recorded which way the electron went through. Nothing in here. This also hasn't recorded where the electron went through. If nothing records where the electron goes through, then there's an interference pattern. But if you were to put a little demon over there, a real physical demon, now a real physical demon could be another electron. It could be some gas in the apparatus, some gas molecules in the apparatus, whatever it is, in such a way that something records which way the electron went through. Something remembers it afterwards. Perhaps a molecule over here gets disturbed, gets excited if the electron goes through the upper hole. Gets excited, and changes the character of that molecule. If it goes through the lower hole, it changes the character of a different molecule.
Right. Now let's just say we could do this, right? With electrons especially. We could fill the chamber full of a gas, and we could see some percentage of the electrons would hit the atoms, be destroyed, in the sense that they wouldn't land on the target. They would end up doing something like creating a photon that we could see, and they'd go somewhere else. But we could still see, percentage-wise, 50-50. We'd see that half the photons went through one slit and half of them went through the other slit. We could see that. So we would know, oh yeah, well, it's reasonable to suspect that the other photons that didn't hit atoms also went through one slit or the other.
So looking afterwards, after the electron went through, you can tell which hole the electron went through. Then the interference pattern is destroyed.
Okay, no evidence. There's no experiment. They never did the experiment. He's just saying it as if they know it because they did some experiment, that they proved it somewhere. They have some proof. They have zero evidence that they've ever had this detection issue. They've never proven Heisenberg's theory that somehow you can't measure location and velocity. Never proven by any experiment. It's just their assumption.
And the answer is exactly the same as the classical answer, namely the probabilities add, just exactly as in classical physics.
Right, never done. So the experiment was never done, they never put detectors on, and the pattern got less interesting. Because you can logically, as I pointed out, you can logically know that if I start trying to detect electrons going through the slits, I'm going to scatter them more. I'm not going to make them diverge less. His theory is that if I try to detect the photons, that is, I hit them with baseballs or something, so I got chickens going through slits, and I start throwing baseballs to see where the chickens are, and I keep knocking the chickens all over the place. That somehow knocking the chickens all over the place would make the pattern narrower, less divergence, and eliminate all the bars. So that's how bad this rubbish of a theory is. This is how illogical it is. It makes no sense at all. So if they actually did the experiment, you can logically understand there's no way the detectors would make the beam go narrower and take away all the pattern. No frickin' way. It would make more pattern and make it diverge even more. It would make more noise, more chaos. So they're so full of shit.
So again, there's no way to record whether the electron went through the upper hole or the lower hole without seriously disturbing the experiment.
Right, so why don't you talk about the buckyballs then? Why don't you talk about using, because you say it, the effect still works with them, even though, yeah, it's pretty shitty. But again, so why don't you detect them?
Without so seriously disturbing the experiment that you drastically change the conclusion.
But again, they never did it. They didn't do it. They didn't drastically change the conclusion. I would argue that if you tried to detect them, you wouldn't annihilate the pattern. You'd just make it noisier. You'd make it a little less precise, a little less clean. But it'd still be there. But they've never done the experiment.
To quantum, that's, roughly speaking, the general character of quantum mechanics.
Right. The character is it's based on no evidence. It's just a bunch of made-up, wavical nonsense that they decided in 1930, screw figuring out rational causes. We're going to live in an undeterministic, random universe where shit just happens because it happens. Just bullshit.
You cannot do measurements on systems without disturbing them, and disturbing them.
Yes, exactly. But we all, again, logically, we all know there's a big difference between hitting me with a cannonball and hitting me with this battery. Big difference. I'll survive this. I won't survive the cannonball. So we know it's all a matter of degree, that you can be very subtle in your influence and you can be very harsh in your influence. Those are facts. Okay, so we can design an experiment that is subtle enough that we can see something. Now, we can't do it with electrons and photons very well, but again, with bigger objects, we can. And they're just saying that it doesn't matter. Even if you can, you'll still fail because we say so, and that's all. They say so. No evidence proving so.
Change completely the character of not question. Yeah. Yeah. That is, yeah, that's a very, very good question. That's an excellent, outstanding question.
Too bad I couldn't hear it. I guess I should have loaded the transcript. That probably isn't on the transcript, but you can't hear it.
The answer has to do with the probability distribution for the position of let's call this the detector. Let's call this the detector. Okay. Now, if the detector.
Okay, so now the slits are being called the detector. Okay, that, you know, this isn't just bullshit. Come on.
Is very well localized in space, as it would be if it were a heavy, massive classical detector. Then, by the uncertainty principle, which we haven't talked about yet, if we're going to, let me skip ahead and imagine that we have talked about.
Yeah, you already have. You've been living on it. This whole conversation, you've been living on this dopey notion that somehow there's this frickin' rule of the universe that we are not allowed to know what photons are doing because they're special.
About the uncertainty principle. Now, that's a sophisticated question, so I suspect you thought about it a little bit. If the position of this detector, the up-down position of this detector, delta x, is very, very small, that means that the uncertainty in the momentum of the detector is large. Okay? That means if I were to plot the probability distribution of the momentum of the detector, let's plot the probability distribution of the momentum of the detector. It's rather broad.
So how does this make any sense to anybody? The momentum of the detector? What is he talking about?
Because for a heavy detector, its location is so well defined. Right? Now the electron comes through and kicks the kicks this thing a little bit. It gives it a small kick. But what does it do? It shifts this probability distribution a small amount. But unless the probability distribution has been shifted by something approximately equal to its width, then you can't tell afterwards whether it got a kick or not. You have to be, in order to be able to be certain that it got a kick, you'll have to kick it by an amount large by comparison with the uncertainty. So it's the uncertainty principle that comes in and rescues you, or rescues me.
So he's still talking as if single slits don't create interference patterns.
Make sure that the interference pattern is not destroyed. The uncertainty principle itself. So let's go to the uncertainty principle since it's been raised, since I raised it. The uncertainty principle is another factor.
I didn't listen to this part yet, so we'll play some more. What the hell?
Quantum mechanics, which is extremely different than classical physics, conceptually very different. I know we haven't talked about what the uncertainty principle is yet, but let's discuss it anyway. Let's jump ahead. My main motivation now is to explain the strangeness of, not to explain the strangeness of quantum mechanics, but point some fingers at the strangeness of quantum mechanics, so that you see.
So the strangeness of their fake rules about their fake model that they never proved with anything called evidence. They just made it up. They've made up this principle that somehow there's always some consequence. Like if you try to measure the velocity of something, that somehow you won't be able to know where it is. And if you try to measure where it is, you won't be able to know how fast it's going. Some bullshit rule that doesn't have anything to do with anything that's a requirement. It's just the real rule is you can't make a ruler, okay, you can't have marks on your ruler smaller than the smallest thing. So you can't measure the smallest thing in the universe because you can't make a ruler small enough to measure it.
It really is fundamentally logically different from classical mechanics. Logically different. Whole logic of quantum mechanics is different. Okay, it's easy to imagine a bit of uncertainty in classical physics. As I said, the coin throwing or the dice throwing deity who sticks his finger into the system and gives it a push this way, a push that way, and so forth. And that way, things after a short...
Yes, all cause and effect and all perfectly reversible. And so is the photon in this experiment. There's no rule here. Dice don't do anything random. Okay, and you can physically understand exactly every single interaction. Even though we can't detect every interaction, we can understand the interaction existed. We know the outcome is a consequence of real causes and effects. Nothing magical happens.
For a period of time become uncertain, and it's easy to imagine that that uncertainty can affect both position and momentum. And if you wait a little while, both the position and the momentum may be uncertain. In fact, if you wait a little
Right, so just retarded. I mean, it's just retarded to think in these terms and say this is physics, and this is, we're supposed to imagine that photons are fairies and they just don't have any place, and they can just decide to blink here or blink there. Oh, I'm here. No, I'm over here. No, I'm over here. No, I'm over here. No evidence. This isn't necessary. There's no need to create this fantasy world of stuff popping in and out of existence. None of this has to be real. There's no necessity for it. It's just a bunch of made-up crap. It's a bunch of superfluous religious shit.
More than a tiny fraction of a second for a particle, you might discover that inevitably both the position and the momentum get jostled about, and so that there's a good deal or a certain amount of uncertainty in position and uncertainty in momentum. But you would be unlikely to say that that uncertainty in position and momentum is, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, first of all, that's fundamental in any sense. You would say it was a result of hitting the system randomly. But I think most of us would agree that under those circumstances...
Right, so again, this hitting the system randomly. I know he's using the word like random is, oh yeah, no, it's cause and effect, but we're just saying random because it looks random. I mean, really should fix this vocabulary. This isn't, you shouldn't teach physics by using a word like random kick. Because it's not random. Shit. Electrons go around protons and neutrons and atoms. Well, I'm not even saying they go around, but they have positions. They have real positions, and their positions change as time changes. There's nothing about whether there's a kick or not. The kick is a cause of an effect, and it was a byproduct of a cause. The electron was caused to be in the position to kick. The random kick isn't random.
It was a bit of laziness that didn't allow us to watch the particle carefully enough to see what exactly the momentum was and the position was. We always imagine, in that kind of classical context, an example of that classical context would be the random walk of a Brownian moving particle. So if we watch a whole bunch of particles might form a cloud, and that cloud might spread, and perhaps even the velocity of the cloud, or the cloud describing the velocities might also spread. But every one of those particles, if we cared to, we could look at with better precision, we can look at it gently as we like to.
Well, the point is we can understand it. We can understand that things aren't just poofing, that they have a history. And like everything else in the universe, there's a history. My hand doesn't poof from here, this position to this position. It has to move through all the positions to get from one place to another. We know that's the real world. And in the place where we can't see, they're making up new rules. And why do you people fall for that? Why do you fall for this idea that all the new rules just happen to be in the place we can't see very well? So the place that's a little foggy and hard to see, oh, that's where all the rabbits really are pulled out of the hats, and that's where pigeons just really do poof out of somebody's hands. All the real magic happens in the foggy place. I mean, it's just, you can't see how you've just been so gamed. You've been suckered so bad by this crap.
Classical physics, and determine both its velocity and its position simultaneously. Certainly that would be true of a classical Brownian motion particle that was being knocked around by ordinary collision.
So he's conceding that a Brownian motion particle, so what is that even? Brownian motion really has to do with what atoms are doing, but let's say, okay, we can make electrons do it, and we can make the protons do it. They're all being caught and, tousled in tension, which I perfectly agree with. The force is always changing, and it's happening trillions of times in just 1 second. In 1 second of our time, a whole billion of years worth of interactions takes place in that 1 second on that scale. But we can understand that Nothing pops in and out of existence. Nothing poofs from here to there. They all have to obey the rules. The photon has to go from point A to point B at the speed of light. This is just such horse shit.
With some gas or something like that. In principle, we can just get ourselves a better microscope, better accuracy, better precision, better resolving power, and do it very gently so as not to disturb the system. When we measure the position, we don't want to jostle the momentum. When we measure the momentum, we don't want to do something funny to the position.
Well, obviously, we wouldn't be doing any of that stuff if we could watch things in the native environment. So if we could actually, unfortunately, microscopes stop working because of Brownian motion, because the motion of the small things, their universe is at a much faster frame rate than our universe. And so too much is happening in too short a period of time for us to be able to figure out what took place. But clearly, an instrument like a microscope, as long as you're not using artificial light or something, can be a very natural. You're not disturbing the system, you're just seeing the byproducts of the system. Just like a camera is a pretty passive instrument, so you don't have a flash on it, it's a pretty passive instrument. You're just seeing something based on causes effects that you never disturbed at all. You don't have to disturb the system at all. I don't have to disturb this half of the room to take a picture of it.
And we just measure it gently enough so that we measure both position and momentum. That would be expected to be true for a Brownian particle. So the uncertainty in position and momentum is something which in a certain sense is due to our own laziness and not spending enough money and buying a good enough detector and so forth to be able to detect both the position and the velocity at the same time.
So more horse shit. Like I said, no, the problem is it's too small. You can't make the measuring device. There's nothing you can throw at a photon. It's the smallest thing. You can't throw, if it's a baseball, there's nothing but baseballs you can throw at it. So of course, if I throw a baseball at a baseball, I'm not going to be able to see what a baseball looks like.
On the other hand, in quantum mechanics, there's a really fundamental obstruction, a logical obstruction, the deep obstruction to knowing, to ever being able to measure both the position and...
It has nothing, there's no logic here. So again, the logic is if you believe in God. So we established the faith in our Heisenberg, and then we'll build logic on top of the assumption. But there's no logic to the assumption. None at all. It's not logical to think the universe is poofing.
And the velocity of a particle. I'm going to work it out for you and show you how it works. I'm going to show you how Heisenberg first thought about it. Well, he first thought about it entirely through abstract mathematics. For us, that's going to come later. But then, when questioned by Bohr, what are you talking about that you can't measure the position and the velocity simultaneously? The mathematics is a crock of baloney. Don't tell me that x times t is not equal to p times x. Come on, it's like saying 3 times 5 is not 5 times 3. Right? No, it's not equal to. Don't tell me such nonsense stories. Give me some physics. And so Heisenberg cooked up his experiment to show, to illustrate the fact, not show, but illustrate the fact that it was a good...
Yes, and there's no experiment. So again, just he cooked up an experiment no one ever did. Oh, great.
Good, deep, consistent reason why it's impossible to ever, under any circumstances, simultaneously determine the position and the momentum of an object. So let's go through that a little bit. It has a similar character to some of the other illustrations that I've given here.
Yes, and that it's all made up. It doesn't have anything to do with real experiments really done. Real observations. No real observations of the real universe. No real test of any system. No real thing at all. Just made up crap. Alright. So that's enough. Maybe I'll listen to the rest of this horseshit and see if there's more bullshit. Because no doubt there is. But yeah, this is, so all these people, I'm not making it personal. Am I arguing something other than the physics he's arguing? He's arguing for things that didn't happen. He's arguing that he has evidence or proof for something when he doesn't have any. So nobody should point that out? Surprisingly poor ratings. I mean, 785,000 views and only 4,000 thumbs up. It's pretty bad. But anyway, alright, till the next time, and such. So forth and whatnot.